What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Teach by Day. I am Mr. Margo, and this is Middle School U.S. History. Today we are going to get closer to talking about what happened with our first form of government. Alright, so our first topic is going to be governing under the Articles of Confederation. Partly going into what it was and then talking about its strengths and weaknesses. So really what we see is the government becomes a direct response of what the colonists did not like about being under the monarchy and the king and parliament in Great Britain. So the federal government under the Articles was weaker than the states, as it quotes. As expressed by the Articles, each state would retain its sovereignty, freedom, and independence. So really this is a loose collection of states, as they called themselves a firm league of friendship. This left states with little power when it came to each other, but it left states with a lot of power and could ignore the national government when didn't really like anything the national government had to say or wanted or needed. Anything not directly given to the central government was completely retained by the states. Under the Articles, the government only had one House of Congress. The members were chosen by the states, not necessarily through an election process, but by sort of general electors. And then those state legislatures promoted people to the sort of national government. No executive or judicial branch to set or enforce laws, although there is a president, but it's more of the president of the Congress, somewhat similar to the prime minister in the parliament, but not exactly the same there either. It could start taxes, but it didn't actually have the power to really enforce them, so most taxes, for the most part, became moot or nothing. It could actually declare war or sign a peace treaty or negotiate with foreign countries, which is exactly what it needed to do in order to do everything under the war. And it was able to also create a postal system, so the United States Postal Service, USPS. Now, one of the few things it did do that was actually really successful was when it came to the Northwest Territory. The Northwest Territory was the part of the region of the settlement given to the United States under the Treaty of Paris, signed at the end of the Revolutionary War. However, America was really slow to move into this region, and that's for a variety of reasons. But by 1785, the need for what to do with this territory became evident as settlers started claiming land and stepping into it. Well, the first act was the Land Ordinance of 1785. It would divide the land into 6 square mile sections called townships. These townships would further divide into sections and then sold to settlers. This is really how Ohio began, and by 1787 it was functioning as it needed to. But in 1787, there needed to be a little bit further detail about how these new territories were not only governed, but what could maybe qualify them as a new state. So in the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, Congress divided the new territory into areas and how they were governed. This defined as 5,000 free adult males living in the state, then it could have a state legislature. Once the state population reaches 60,000, it could apply for statehood in Congress. It didn't outline many rights, but it did ban slavery in the Northwest Territories. This method of adding states is actually what we still use today and would be used for the remaining 37 states to get us to where we are now, being 50. This is the most successful law or decision or collection of decisions under the Articles of Confederation. Now let's get into its first major problem, Shays' Rebellion. As we mentioned, they already couldn't really collect taxes. Well, this became part of a problem, and as you remember back to the Revolution, the money printed by the federal government really wasn't accepted, and because it wasn't accepted, it largely became worthless. This was for two factors. One, every state already kind of had its own money, plus British money. So when you have a new American dollar, every single state has their own dollars, plus British money, and most people still accepted gold and silver, we're talking about 16 to 17 different types of currencies. Not all of them are going to be accepted. Even worse, you could be in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, and need to travel to, say, Baltimore. And as you travel to Baltimore, you have your Philadelphia money, and they won't accept it in Baltimore. So you try the new American dollar, and they won't accept that either. So they'll only really accept British money, or they'll accept gold. And that was about it. So this new currency is an issue that needs to be figured out. And then Shays' Rebellion begins. This is the final nail in the coffin for the new government, and Daniel Shay and his followers in western Massachusetts, these were farmers who were having a difficult time now that the Revolutionary War was over. Most had taken loans. These farms or equipment for grain and seed, they were being farmed and then they were being shipped off. Most of the time they were being shipped off to the army or to the soldiers that were needed from Germany, or the mercenaries, or the French army or navy, or our navy. But when the war ended, we couldn't afford to keep paying an army, plus we didn't trust it, so we disbanded it. And the government stopped buying or paying for the grain, and the farmers lost that income. Well, once you have no income, can you pay back a loan? Of course not. So when you can't pay for the loan, then you start having things repossessed. So they complained to the government. The government gave them money, but now the money they're giving them is the dollar. And in Massachusetts, they didn't accept the dollar. They accepted Massachusetts money. So because the acceptance was not there, this created another problem. And at the time, we see that banks began to foreclose on these loans and take farmers' homes and their land. Well, Daniel Shay and his experience as a Revolutionary War veteran and army leader, he banded together with fellow farmers, and they closed courthouses. They even threatened judges. And if a court couldn't rule, they couldn't lose their homes. They even went so far as to some judges were tarred and feathered. And on January 25th, 1787, Daniel Shays and his nearly 1,200 followers marched on the local armory of Springfield, Massachusetts. There, a private militia of the governor was waiting, and the nearly year-long rebellion was finally over. But that isn't how it all went down. Massachusetts asked for help from the federal government. The federal government couldn't help them. In fact, they begged other states like New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania to assist and help out. And they just kind of were like, no, we're not really interested in that. Sorry, that's a Massachusetts problem. So it took a long time for the governor to create a large enough private militia and march from Boston to western Massachusetts to put this down, which is why it was able to take place for so long. The governor finally gets this situation under control. The situation for Daniel Shays and his farmers don't necessarily get any better. But this leads a young leader in James Madison to reach out to George Washington, writing him a letter saying that this is a dire need and I need to use your name to call people together for a national convention. Washington agreed, and we see the Constitutional Convention of 1787. Originally, this meeting is designed to reform the Articles of Confederation. No one in the colonies really believes that it's working. It's too constrictive. You need all 13 states to change the Constitution. That's unlikely. You also need at least 9 out of 13 states to pass laws. So for the most part, almost no laws get passed. And once the delegates meet and they begin talking, they scrap the idea. James Madison, from the beginning, when he asked Washington to use his name, didn't expect Washington to show up. He does. But also, he never really expected to fix the Articles of Confederation. Several people knew this, and because that, several didn't show up, one of them being Samuel Adams. He believed that the Articles was going to be overridden, and he believed by protesting, by not showing up, that was enough. But that's not how it worked. And they decided to scrap the Articles and write a new government. On May 25th, 1787, the convention begins in Philadelphia. 55 delegates from 12 states were present. Most of what we know about the convention comes from the detailed notes taken by James Madison. He was not asked to do this, but because of that, he is considered the father of the Constitution. These delegates, 55 from 12 states, arrive in Philadelphia sporadically because it takes time to get there. Rhode Island refused to send delegates because, again, they feared that the rewrite of the Articles was going to create a strong central government. Some that I've already mentioned, Sam Adams, Patrick Henry, but another, John Hancock. People who were very important in continental congresses in getting our country free just completely refused to go. They also feared that. And while John Adams and Thomas Jefferson also didn't attend, they didn't necessarily fear a changing of the Articles, but they were abroad in Great Britain and France, respectively. Now, these delegates are not exactly like today's government. They didn't represent the common citizen, but they did represent a people of a young nation hoping for better. Well, I think that's it for this time. Hopefully you'll tune in next time. Thanks for watching. If you like something or you've heard something new or learned something new today, hit that like, share, or subscribe. Hopefully you'll see our next episode. And if there's something you'd like to see, go ahead and feel free to throw it into the comments section. I will get to as many of those as I possibly can. Thanks for watching.